Slave to our freedom.
The young brother was downright eloquent with his misinformed soliloquy. He said using nigger affectionately among ourselves takes the negativity out of the word, but that no other race of people can use it ever but us. And you thought that kind of reasoning existed only in the Twilight Zone. Then again, the Twilight Zone was a TV show, and the plight of Black America is tragic reality. Somebody said the revolution would not be televised. They didn't say anything about our devolution, which is well documented. You see it every day, our disrespect for one another. You can hear it in our sad excuse for artistry.
Slave to our freedom.
We continue to squander our brilliant cultural legacy as musicians, poets, educators, and inventors. We call our women bitches and hoes. In a vivid exhibition of self-repulsion, we refer to ourselves as niggas. In our quest for acceptance and our relentless worship of bling, we have shared our sense of dignity and self-worth. It didn't used to be this way. Ironically, back when we fought for the opportunities we now abuse, that is when we stood tallest. Out of our torturous struggle for equality morphed a mighty pride and honor.
Slave to our freedom.
But now our pride is built on hollow motives and aimless ambitions. Today, to identify our oppressor, the modern Black American need look no further than his own mirror. All of us aren't lost. Many of us know damn well that the emperor is butt naked. Every day we fight the good fight. But high praise for low thinking has taken its toll on generations. When so many are lost, there is enough blame to go around. When Martin Luther King Jr. prophesied the black man one day reaching the so-called promised land, he said,
I might not get there with you.
Lord knows, he didn't think we'd end up here.
Slave to our freedom.
At this time, I would like to recite the Morrison Markham prayer, the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise to give praise to Allah. I'd like to give praise to Allah because it is Allah who is the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give honor to Allah's holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because he is the only one that brought you and me our nationality and our divine creed. What do that mean? our mother taught us about the church, saying we must honor our father and our mother, that our days may be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God, Allah, has given thee. And when we usually talk about our father and our mother, we're talking about our biological father, and we're talking about our biological mother. But as we are taught here in the Moorish Science Temple of America, when we say honor thy father, we're talking about the great God Allah, the father of the universe, the father of everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. And when we talk about honor thy mother, we're talking about Mother Earth, because man derives his name from the earthland. Every people on this upside planet mud has a geographical location on which they can trace themselves back to. So we like to give honor to our flags, the flag of our origin and the flag of our birth. Honor to our charter, honor to all religions pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. We got to give honor to the forerunner. We got to give honor to the forerunner, Marcus Moses Garvey. We like to give honor to this brother because he prepared the way for the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He couldn't have been the prophet. He had to be the forerunner because he already had his nationality and he already had his religion. But he told us, up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. So I'd like to give honor to everything pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honor to effort because so many of us, we don't even try. And last but not least, I'm honored too to give honor to Temple 2 here in Portland, Oregon, because we're on our way. We are on our way to Canaan land. At this time, I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran, which is also known as the Circle 7, or the Book of the Seven Seals, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. And the verse I want to read from, I'm going to read from chapter 45. And I'm going to just read one verse from this chapter 45. But the title of this chapter is The Divine Origin of the Asiatic Nations. You know, in this Moorish Quran, it's 5 chapters that Noble Drew Ali bought. The rest of them is the Keistic Records, which is known as Universal Mind. And he said he prepared that for us. But this right here, he had to bring us because he had to show us his prophethood. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to read from verse 6. And verse 6 reads on this wise. It says, the Colombians, the Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador in Central America, etc., all of these are Muslims. Thus, we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran. Now, the reason why I read from verse 6 is because of what Noble Drew Ali taught us. He told us that all these brothers and all these sisters that's in Central America, because when we talk about Moorish American, we're not just talking about in North America, we're talking about South. Moreover, we're talking about Central America. And Noble Drew Ali just showed us the Colombians, the Nicaraguans, and the natives of Salvador in Central America. All of these are Muslim. He said all of these are Muslim. He didn't say all these was Christians. He said all of these are Muslim. But when we look towards there, all we see is Mary on the cross. Who is that? Now, the reason why I had to read this was because we was in a conversation. We was in a conversation with a lot of brothers and sisters who called themselves Moorish Americans. And I was in somewhat dispute with their understanding. I'm not trying to change your understanding because the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. But Noble Drew Ali told us that and told us that these brothers and sisters, all of them are Muslim. Now he didn't say Muslim, Nowhere in literature in the Moorish Science Temple of America will you see Noble Jew Ali refer to us as Muslim. Nor will you see anywhere in the Moorish Science Temple of America when the Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali called us Muslims, nor did he ever say Muhammad, because there's no O in the Arabic language. Noble Jew Ali, look at all of the Moorish literature, he always say Muhammad, he always use a O. He don't use the U because there's no O in the Arabic language. So we want to talk about this today. We want to talk about it because all of us who's trying to learn about the Moorish Science Temple of America, and we trying to learn it the way that the Prophet taught us. Now, the Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali told the Moorish American Muslims that if there was a second language that we should learn, that second language should be Spanish. Now, all these brothers and sisters that I just named in this book, all of them are Spanish from that perspective. But Noble Jew Ali told us something different. So now, let's look at this because it's very important. We're looking at a Muslim name. I got to go back to this because I need to do it. You can keep the name that you have. If you got an Lynch-Bey, you keep the name that you have. But because we're getting ready to deal with this census, we need to get in line with what the prophet say. If you fill out the census and say your name is Muhammad Yusuf, they don't know from which you come, especially if you're talking about reparation. Because when you say that your name, they say you could be from Arabia, you could be from any other of these different nations that's in the United States. But if you say that your name, the back of our 101 questions, the prophet talked about Miliel, he talked about Small Bey, he talked about Lovett Bey, and Noble Jew Ali talked about Foreman Bey. And Noble Jew Ali told us, I said, man, that Miliel, Small Bey, Lovett Bey, and Foreman Bey, they was Muslims. And that there was no such thing as a Muslim name. Yes, it is a Muslim name. No, it ain't. Prophet Muhammad, before he got the revelation from God, what was his name? Because before he got the revelation, there was no such thing as Muslim, and there was no such thing as Islam. So before Muhammad got the revelation, his name was Muhammad. So before Muhammad got the revelation, if his name was Muhammad, how can that be a Muslim name? It's an Arabian name. That one who called himself Muhammad might be an Arabian because it's an Arabian name. But we, brothers and sisters, in this said government, we want to take on a name like Khadijah. We want to take on a name like Yusuf or Muhammad or Ali. And why is that? Because it's another form of mental slavery. And being that we're dealing with this thing going on right now, you're going to have to be in line so the wrong will know who you are. If you don't have Lynch-Bey by your name, then reparation won't be for you. Let me reiterate that. If you don't have Lynch-Bey on the back of your name, reparation is not for you because a black man cannot get such. Why? Because he is not honoring his father and his mother. And that means that his days is no longer on this earth land, which the Lord thy God, Allah, has given thee. So the Prophet Noble Jew Ali told us, if there's a second language that we must learn, it should be Spanish. I want to tell you about a brother named Brother F. Nelson Bey. See, I'm going to call his name because a lot of brothers don't like hearing names like that. A good brother, you ain't had no slander on his name. And Brother F. Nelson Bey, let me tell you who he is. He took charge after C. Kirkland Bey passed from. Everybody talk bad about C. Kirkland Bey. I was talking to a chump today. Everybody got something bad to say about that grand body. But I come in the 70s. When I come in, wasn't nobody nowhere. If it wasn't, once German Bey left outside them institutions and places, if it wasn't for the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey, we wouldn't know anything. And anybody that you run into, now I know that certain this or certain that, but even though they kept the doors open, and Drew Ali said, keep the doors open, and I drive them in. And as I begin to look at the lesson, let me get back to F. Nelson Bey. There was a brother that lived on Moorish Home number 1. He's still living. A friend of mine. I call him that. And he used to brag and jump up and tell us all how Brother F. Nelson Bey taught everybody that was a child in the temple the Moorish American prayer, but he taught it to them in Spanish. He taught it to us in Spanish because the same X that's in the Mexican is the same X that's in Mexico. So when you find a brother, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Just check the record. If you find a brother or a sister who take on these names that I'm talking about, they're not following Drew Ali. Now, I'm not saying that you ain't the right one, because just because you take on a name and I don't take on a name, I could be living according to hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harm, and because you took on a name, you're living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, put you closer to Allah than I. But the prophet told us that. And you can see the back of your authority, where he said Millie Ill, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Former Bay. Drew Ali told us that Millie Ill or Millie was not a slave name. He said that the slave name was Negro, colored, and black. So if you put Ill or Bay beside your name, behind your name, that only puts you in line with reparation, because it's coming and everybody talking about it. But if you call yourself a black man, reparation has no place for you. Why? When first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century, we had a name. What was the name? Moorish. Now, if we was Moorish then, we are Moorish now. Because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So we're talking about reparation, but in order to talk about reparation, we need to talk about nationality. Now you call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. I want to give you some signs. Everybody that's in this government, after O.J. Simpson went to trial and they started dealing with DNA, then you was able then to start tracing yourself back. Everybody of African descent that's in this government that trace your lineage back is going to take you to West Africa. Now, Drew Ali did say, when he was talking about Ruth, he said the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So now we're getting in line with Drew Ali said, because he said, I'm signed up to go a certain way. If you call yourself the head honcho, if you call yourself the chief papo, if you call yourself any of that, you got to call yourself the Grand Sheik, because the prophet said the Grand Sheik and the chairman. He said, say the Grand Sheik or the chief minister, the Grand Sheik or the high hoop bar. He didn't say none of that. He said the Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the systems of the prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So Drew Ali said he signed up to go a certain way. The reason why I wanted to read that is because of this Ill and this Bey and taking on these Muslim names. thinking that you taking on a Muslim name. And the bad part about it, you so high up in the spirit, when somebody tell you that it's not so, you won't change it. You just want to keep it that way. Keep it that way. I'm only telling you what Drew Ali say. We're not here to recruit nobody. We're just here to warn you of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. And I just wanted to share that because a lot of brothers and sisters are taking on these names. And when they take on these names, they say they're a Muslim name. But if you're ill or if you obey, that's Muslim. That's Muslim. And now when you begin to talk about that ill, you're talking about the educator. And when you're talking about the bey, you're talking about the ruler of the house. Now we got to look at the bey just like we do the Fed and go back to Turk. We got to go back to the Ottoman Turks. Because the Turks in 1453 Byzantine, took off the head of Satan, meaning crushing that kind of spirit. The same spirit that we have in the Moorish Zion Temple of America that we're going to have to crush. Drew Ali said, oh, think not bold, man, because that punishment is delayed, that the arm of Allah has weakened. Neither flatter yourself with false hopes that He winketh at that doing. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to share it because it was important. Now, I want to go to another chapter. I want to go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 in our Moorish Holy Quran. There's a holy ministry in death, and there's a holy ministry of death. And both of these lessons are here in the Moorish Science Temple of America. But the reason why I want to read this is because of certain lessons that the prophet taught. Now, I have some things here on Mary Magdalene and Jesus and baptism, but I want to take you to the prophet's literature. Even when we use profane language, the prophet tell us, don't even use profane language in the mildest form. So he's trying to get us close to the great God Allah. And he's really getting me close to the great God Allah. But what I want to do now, I want to read a few verses out of chapter 4. It's on page 10. And the first verse I want to read is verse 10. Chapter 4, verse 10. And it reads on this wise. Your mission here is that of an harbinger, for you will go before the Messiah's face and pave the way and make the people ready to receive the king. This readiness is purity of heart. None but the pure in heart can recognize the king. To teach men to be pure in heart, you must yourself be pure in heart and word and deed. In infancy, the vow for you was made, and you became a Nazarite. The razor shall not touch your face, nor head, and you shall not taste wine or fiery drinks. I was talking to Brother Albert, Sheikh Albert, the other day, and he was telling me about one of these national officials. Got caught on the Facebook trying to hide it, drinking a beer. I ain't telling you don't drink no beer. I'm not telling you that. Because all of these brothers and sisters is of a particular grand body, they say it's all right to drink beer. But the prophets say, won't you be like your prophet? I don't drink and I don't smoke. But all you do doing all this cursing, you outside of what the prophets say. And I got to stop talking to somebody else about what they doing, because if I can't say something that will uplift you, because I'm hoping I'm uplifting you now, because I'm telling you what the prophet said. Like I say, the brother F. Nelson Bey even taught the Moors, the Moorish Quran, and taught them everything on their nationality card, and it was in Spanish. He taught them that because he remembered the prophet said that about if there's a second language, it need to be Spanish. Now, the Moors fast during the month of Ramadan if you want to. If you want to fast, you can fast. But I don't see nowhere in our literature. Now, you might find it in the Muslim literature, but in the Muslim literature, because we fasting every day anyway over here in America. Our people was fasting every day because we was starving, we had nothing to eat. So Drew Ali wasn't going to put that on us right there. You can't eat 3 meals a day, you tell them don't eat at all. So, no with Drew Ali. You know, did he tell us to learn Arabic? No. He said if there was a second language that we should learn, it should be Spanish. So ain't no need to brother keep getting on Facebook. I'm a Morris Mac, walk me to a lot of water. Yeah, it's good, but you Ali didn't bring that. It's good to learn everything. He said study Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. But when we study Confucius and when we study Buddha, we understand that lineage. And when we begin to say Jesus, we know who is right there too. Because when you say Jesus, you're not talking about the one that was born in Bethlehem of Judah in the house of David. Because if he was looking just like you and me. So Jew Ali told us to worship under our own vine and fig tree. He told us to give back to Caesar what belonged to Caesar, which was the thought pattern. So when you begin to look in these lessons, let me finish, read some more. Men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. That's the problem that we have. Drew Ali say no Muslim name. There's no such thing as a Muslim name. He tells us all these things. But you got these poop butts that come around and took all this literature from brothers and sisters that was old and past form, and you jump out there with this literature like it's yours. And now we got all this kind of literature. Let me share something. Because think not bold man. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Allah, the great God of the universe. He's not pleased with the work that we are doing here in the Morris Zion Temple of America. So it says right here, men need a pattern for their life. They love to follow, not to lead. So you won't think for yourself. Drew Ali say, let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so. Now, I ain't going to tell you about the 7 senses. I'm going to go back to the 5 senses. He said, let every member exercise his 5 senses who was able to do so. So if you are not able to exercise your own 5 senses, then what take place? Somebody else is going to exercise them for you. Now, the brother bought me an Ankh the other day, and I respect that. A lot of my friends wear the Ankh. But I remember in a meeting, that I was taught. So you see that 7 that you have on, brother? He said 7 is the number of perfected man. Drew Ali took us in the highest chamber of the Egyptian Adab. He didn't give us the Ankh. If he did, show me where. I know we got all these mystical systems and all these different things that we talk about, but if you go back in the days of the prophet, nobody wore Ankh. I remember brother Lynch-Bey out of Temple 71 in Washington, D.C. And Lynch-Bey passed form. And when he passed form, I talked to Brother Al-Lovir. Brother Al-Lovir, he was wearing an Ankh and some red, black, and stuff he was wearing along with his literature. He said the prophet wasn't pleased with that. So when you say that you're a member of the Morris Science Temple of America, then you have a particular character. See? Now, let me read some more. The man who stands upon the corners of the path and points the way, but does not go, is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. Man, something happened in the temple the other day with one of our sisters. And the sister asked a question. And the question that she asked me was, all right for her to sip on some wine every now and then. Man, I jumped up and started dancing and doing everything. For a sister to come and ask me about, man, these sisters on pills. They on girl, boy, son, dog. They on everything. And I said, man, this is pure. Because if you hear somebody say it's all right to drink and asking you that in sincerity, you know this is one of the ones that Drew Ali talked about. Because Drew Ali said many are called and a few are chosen. And I learned that lesson today. Because out of all these different grand bodies that's around here in the Morris Science Temple, I do my best to try to respect everybody. And the reason why I try to do that, because my mission is trying to help bring this back under one head like the prophet left it. Because we could even start dealing with fallen humanity, we got to come under one head like the prophet left it. Every time I look at Facebook, somebody got something bad to say about somebody else. And you know why that is? Because they ain't really with the prophet. they just quoting all this stuff that they done stole from that girl that was blind, and all these other people that you done got their literature. How do I know? Because I've been around when you even didn't know anything about Drew Ali existing. So I looked at it, and like I say, I honor the Grand Sheik of the Grand Major Temple of C. Kirkham Bey. Why? Because his name is R. Jones Bey. Why do I honor R. Jones Bey? First of all, he's my homeboy. And when you have brothers and sisters that come up just the way that you come up, and then they go in or somewhere, and then they come out, and they start living a moral and clean life. I'm not talking about a life that you sneak off and do this here, or you sneak off and do that there, or even if that was the case, as you grow, as a man unfold, his God unfold. That's why Drew Ali gave us certain chamber lessons so we can overcome. See, we got to overcome these things of the world so we could be close with our Father, God Allah. There's a spirit, and there's certain ether planes. And in order for us to get on certain ether planes, we got to raise our thoughts to infinite wisdom. But a lot of us cannot raise our thoughts to infinite wisdom. We think we are and see omnipotence displayed before thee. Why? Because finite mind cannot comprehend things infinite. So if you have a finite mind, you cannot comprehend things on an infinite plane, because one of them is limited and one of them is unlimited. And when you begin to talk about the higher self, see, you always hear people talking about, hey, how's your cells? You know how one of them is, the one that you have to crush. Drew Ali said, crush one under thy feet. What do we crush under our feet? Lust, fuss, hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. And through the Moorish Science Temple of America, I'm growing. I'm overcoming. I'm trying to be in this world, but not of this world. I remember one time, Howard here told me that recently. He said, I try to get out and you just keep bringing me right back in. You know, that means that a lot of times when you try to do it right, because we got a lot of work to do. You know, now, this is deep. This is real deep, because I was asked the question. I was asked the question that where is the right grand body? Which one should we go sit under? Right now, if you here in Portland, Oregon, and you want to know that, I'm getting you ready for it now. I'm getting you ready for that great day. Because see, the prophets say, ain't but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. And a lot of us are not striving to do that. For many years, I thought in my mind, even though I had to go through trials and tribulations, I thought in my mind, I said, what can we do to bring this Moorish Science Temple of America back under one head like the prophet left it? And what did I do? We started getting on the airplane, going all across the country. And our strongest supporter was Sheikh Clarence Prather Eel. And in Washington, D.C., we had the first Unity Summit. And I was a part of that. Had something to do with that, because it's about you, not about vanity, because it ain't about you. It ain't about me. We don't hold nothing. All this belonged to the prophet, and he told us to teach these things to our little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. I told the sister today, she, brother Yusuf Ali out of Chicago, the brother that writes these books. He sent one to my page, and I sent it to a sister in Chicago, and she said, thank you, but I already have the books. And you know what the prophet say, husband, you must support your wife and children. So I sent the note back to the sister. I said, praise Allah, sister, because you are supporting your children. A lot of time when the prophet says support your wife and children, he's not just say supporting your wife and your children through finance. He's talking about supporting them with the truth, supporting them with that right character. So let me do some more reading. Men comprehend the inner life by what they see and do. They come to Allah through ceremonies and forms. And so when you would make men know that sins are washed away by purity in life, a rich symbolic may be introduced. Now let me talk about that, because my man over there in Washington, you know, we bring brothers in the Morris Science Temple or sisters in the Morris Science Temple, and when they get their nationality card, we wash their feet. Just like it is. We ain't talking about Murray McAleenan, he writing the book. He's talking about wash the body of the people. It's symbolic because you're being born again. You're being newly introduced as love made manifest now, because that's your first principle. Love. Love is the only savior of the world. And Jesus, son of Mary, came to manifest that love to men. That love cannot be manifest until his way has been prepared and knuckle ridden the rock and bring down lofty hills and fill the valleys up and thus prepare the way for purity. For purity in life, men do not comprehend, so it too must come in flesh. Drew Ali. Drew Ali came pure. Drew Ali was the granddaddy of them all. That's why Allah had to send Drew Ali first. Noble Drew Ali wouldn't have sent somebody else first. He had to send Noble Drew Ali first with the methodology that was conducive to our growth and development. When Noble Drew Ali came, the first thing he did was brought us our nationality. Everybody else have a nationality in this whole world except you and me. Ain't nothing big to have a nationality. About the European gonna say about time, because as the brother was teaching, you ask the European, what's your nationality? I'm German. I'm Dutch. I'm Portuguese. I'm French. They got a nationality. What's your nationality? I'm Negro. I'm colored. I'm black. I'm Ethiopian. I'm Afro-American. Because these names was given to you and me by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865. Now they were in 1779, the United States had already had their independence. In 1774, when those names was given to us, they was not officially put on record because the United States did not get its independence from the mother country, England, until 1776. So in 1774, they was given to us. In 1776, United States got its independence from the mother country, England, and 1779, it was officially put on record. But you remember when Noble Drew Ali said in our Act 6 of the Divine Constitution that the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites. Let's look at this Moabites again. Because when you begin to talk about the Moabites, everybody know about the Moabites. Even a preacher, every preacher know about Moabite. He just ain't going to teach it to you. Because Ruth was a Moabite. Now, let me tell you something about Ruth right now. That was very important, and I learned that lesson today from a chump. You know, when I said this before on this show, in the Bible, in the book of Ruth, who is my sister, who is the grandmother of Solomon and David, I mean, Jochebed, Boaz, and, you know, Jesse, you know, we know this genealogy. We know the genealogy where. But you know what Drew Ali did? He said the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites. If Ruth was a Moabite, then in the book of Ruth, whoever that sister Ruth is, she come from Africa. Because the Moabites are having northwestern, southwestern shores of Africa. So go back to anybody. Go get your DNA. I bet you your DNA say you come from West Africa. Everybody's DNA in this government, when you check it out, it's going to take you back to West Africa. Why? Because that's where the slave trade came from. The slave trade didn't come from East Africa. That's why if you go to D.C. and other places, Ethiopians, which is Abyssinia, the Greeks named it Ethiopia. But when you talk to them Ethiopians, man, we ain't come through slavery like y'all. We ain't a part of y'all. We don't have nothing to do with y'all because the slave trade did not go through Ethiopia. The slave trade was in West Africa. And Noble Drew Ali told us that. This is why Moorish Americans, we are Hebrew Israelites, and we're everything that Africa is a part of. But when you begin to talk about different governments that come out of Africa, right now you have to talk about when we went into Spain. The Moors went into Spain in 711. And when we went in Spain in 711, what did we do? We gave Europe civilization. I remember because I was there. We gave them running water, show them how to take baths, show them how to with paved streets and neon lights, because if they was in the dark ages. And we understand that. We're not saying nothing negative about it, because we are the dark age. But I just come out of the dark ages because I had a mental illness put me in the dark ages. Because if I call myself Negro, if I call myself black, if I call myself colored, I have no place on this earth. Nowhere on earth can I trace myself back to, because somebody told me that I was black. Drew Ali didn't tell me that. Allah didn't tell me that. There's no land for the black man. There's no land for the Negro. But I tell you one thing, there's a Negro river, because Drew Ali said the name of a river, Negro, is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. So now there's a river called the Negro. And he said this river that's called Negro is in West Africa. But through my scientific study and investigation, I come to find out that this river is in Brazil. So right now, when you begin to talk about Brazil, you're talking about West Africa. You're talking about the Berlin Conference. When you begin to talk about the Egyptians, or when you begin to talk about the Arabians, or even when you look at Morocco today. Let's look at that, because I'm always saying on this show that Morocco did not get its independence until March 2nd, 1956 from under the French rule. This flag was taken down. That's why it said, what is your nationality? It said Moorish American. It said, why are you Moorish American? It said, because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. So we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Why aren't we Moroccan Americans? Because Bruce Lee's cousin is a Chinese, but he was born here in America, and his nationality is Chinese American. We're going back to this flag. What Morocco are you talking about? Are you talking about French Morocco? Are you talking about Spanish Morocco? What Moroccans are you talking about? So when you say the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and southwestern shore, you going back there. Because right now, in Morocco today, the Moors are not there. That treaty that came again in 1956, we Moors at that time who was in Morocco, we had already made the treaty with Morocco. It's all on everywhere. The Moors are the first nation on earth that had a treaty with the United States. So we've been rolling and moving all the time. We working all the time. Now, when you begin to talk about the Moors in Spain, you don't hear that. They call you the Mohammedans, and they'll call you everything, because that's a golden name they're trying to keep down, the Moors. Now, when this government was first formed, this government was first formed under what is known as the Magna Carta of 1215. And the Magna Carta of 1215, when they first set up over here, I ain't talking about the Boston Tea Party, we'll get into that later. When they first set up over here, where did they bring the people from? They opened up the prison doors. And they opened up the prison doors and let all them prisoners free to come here to America with that mentality. So Noble Drew Ali, sent by the great God Allah to redeem you and me from our sinful ways, so we'll go back into that mind of our forefathers, divine and ancient principle. So today, we got to understand that if we talking about reparation, and we talking about stepping to the government about this reparation and about a particular number of people, you got to go in there with your nationality card in your pocket. Matter of fact, not just your nationality card, you got to go in there with your dues card in your profit. You know, now, I'm talking to you because when you get minister papers tell you to set aside temples. And every time somebody's at the sound of my voice, and I say something to you that's beneficial to your life, or helps you in your growth and your development, I'm setting aside a temple. Because man is the temple of God. Man ain't the body, nor the soul. So when we talk about the temple of God, we're in the spirit. Because it's not in flesh to think, and it's not in bones to reason anyway. So Drew Ali came with that methodology and gave that to you and me. He told us about Jesus. He told us about Muhammad. He told us about Buddha and Confucius. Let me read some more. Men comprehend the inner life by what they see and do. They come to Allah through ceremonies and form. And so, when you would make men know that sins are washed away by purity in life, a rich symbolic may be introduced. In water, wash the bodies of the people who would turn away from sin and strive for purity in life. This rite of cleanliness is a preparation rite, and they who thus are cleansed compare to the temple of purity. Let's go back to that. Because like I say, what we do at this temple, because it was cleared years ago. The prophet cleared it because the prophet taught it. He taught it right here in the literature. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple conform under the covers of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the prophet. So a symbolic ritual may be introduced. So when brothers and sisters, we did this in, I knew it was there before 72. They was doing this in Washington, D.C. before, because I remember the Grand Sheik, Brother A. Harvin Bey. He joined in 66. And he was our Sunday school instructor for a lot of people don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear that. But you got to understand that when you talk about that brother Jeremy Bey came out of the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey. And I asked Jeremy Bey, man, why you come out the body of C. Kirkland Bey when C. Kirkland, he said, man, you don't know? And the lesson that this brother taught me, it was so beautiful because Loveville told me the exact same thing. And Loveville, man, he ain't never said nothing to me good about Jeremy Bey. Never. And I understood it. I understood it. That's why I loved him so much. You know, but what he said, it was no cussing. It wasn't no killing. It wasn't none of that kind of foolishness. It was a different kind of talk because that's how he and I talk. Because when I joined the Morris Science Temple, I was already a master of the Bible. My family taught me that. People didn't know that. And that's the only way I was able to deal with these old dudes inside them places like that because I was already up on them. All I needed was my nationality. That's why I know Drew Ali says some of his greatest followers are in the church. He's talking about those that's living according to the fruits of the Spirit. See, when you live according to the fruits of the Spirit, long suffering and all those kind of things, that means that you're trying to live a moral and clean life. Now, we had a Mufti staff. And the Mufti staff, the motto of the National Security Force was the prevention of sin and crime. I said prevention of sin and crime. He said, yeah, because the prophets say a good death is better than an evil life. Let me reiterate that. Drew Ali say a good death is better than an evil life. So strive to live as long as you ought to and not as long as you can. So we got to look at this now. We got to start looking at what Noble Drew Ali told us because every tub must stand on his own bottom and every tongue must confess his own. See, we can make our mouth say anything. Getting to the gender is not what we quote because recitation is no sign of elevation. You can make your mouth say anything, but your words, your works, and your deeds will be the proof of your messiahship. So Drew Ali came to clean us up. He cleaned a lot of us up because, man, we was dirty. He cleaned us up out of the mud and set us back up right on our feet again. And when he did that, he gave us a 7. He said 7 is the number of perfection, and we're all striving to reach perfection. We're striving to try to live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is what we need to strive to do. And if we say that we Moorish America, and if we are not working each day to try to bring the movement back under one head like the prophet left, something wrong with you. You talk gangster talk, but you must be walking with the European. Let me tell you why. Brother gave a lesson, the Grand Mufti gave a lesson years ago about the gorilla. He said, man, if you ever see a gorilla in the jungle, and if he see another gorilla coming his way, said, what did he do? He said, man, let me go this way, because that dude over there is a gorilla. I don't want no trouble out of him. See? And when you find a brother or a sister that don't have respect for those around them because they got a different understanding, and you start cussing and bumbling, it's like I said to you today, if boy, I see you, I'm going to smack your teeth out your mouth. See? And I say that's a sign. What I mean, I'm talking to myself. And I'm saying that the lower self that's in me, because Drew Ali said about many times we're bound down to this carnal life. You not drink? Do you smoke? Do you cuss? Do you fornicate? If you don't, then what are you teaching these brothers and sisters in your temple? What are y'all doing? Are you living a moral and clean life? A Muslim is one who lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And one of the truths is that a Muslim name does not exist. There's no such thing as a Muslim name. What the truth is, I know I ain't got no business fornicating. I don't have no business cussing. I don't have no business doing anything that's outside of the circle 7. See, because when you begin to talk about the circle 7, there's a circle. And inside the circle is where you're safe at. If you get outside of the circle, then no telling what might happen in your life. That's why when you look at the circle 7 that you wear, on the front of it, they're square. On the back of them, they're rounded. They're rounded off with the tools of the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thought and where we build up character. So you stand on the square. You stand on the square, but as you stand on the square and unfold, as does the bud unfold to show the flower, then it begins to round off. That's why you deal with the two. Say when he first saw Jesus, say he was climbing up a ladder, and he had 3 things in his hand. And the 3 things that Jesus had in his hand and climbing the ladder was a compass, a square, and an axe. And listen, Moors, we use a compass to draw a circle around our passions and desires to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. Okay? That's the compass. We use the square to measure all our lines, to straighten out the crooked places of the way, to make the corners of our conduct square. And we use the axe to cut away the knotty, unuseless, and ungainly parts that make our character symmetrical. Symmetrical, we upright. So we trying to be upright so we could do the work of the prophet Noble Drew Ali. My man came inside them joints and brought us out of there. We was living hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. He said, rise up, you mighty Moors, from the slumbering pits of ineptitude. He said, get your house in order, that your children may learn to love instead of hate. And he said, these teachings was not accepted by the rulers, neither by the rich, neither by you big boys, because you love the principles of the 10th commandment, while the rulers live and the poor suffer and die. So I want to read this because it was talking about baptism. I don't know no organization don't talk about baptism. None of them. But in the Moorish Science Temple, we talk about it. And I'd like to reiterate, if you think it ain't right, Drew Ali said it here, in every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they in accord with the holy prophet and the temple. And right here, he tells us to wash the body of the people. And when you give them that lesson and they see the lesson, then they overcome. You remember Moses? What did he say? Take off your shoes because you're now standing on holy ground. There's a heaven on the spirit, 1. There's a heaven on the soul, 2. and there's a heaven on the plane of things made manifest, which is 3, which is a heaven down here too. So we're going to make heaven on earth. And how do you make heaven on earth? By living according to the teachings of the holy prophet, Noble Ali, because whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. So it's always an honor, a blessing, moreover a duty to come before our Portland Listen audience. And you know it's a blessing for me to be able to come before you to talk this way because I ain't always been here. I'm talking about, man, when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, I was jumping out the window in my own house, going to do some things that wasn't right. You know, if I can get 10, say, at 3 years old, if I can get an extra dime, I would try to get it. You know, because they had too much religion in my house, and it was killing me. So it's a blessing. Study the prophet. Study for yourself. Study for yourself. So in conclusion, I would like to say, in this age, there's still much religious controversy as to the right thing. Big and powerful ministers have come to the conclusion that something is wrong. Some say it is the 10th commandments. Others say that there's a lack of sincerity in the purpose of the churches. Still others think that it is worthless and not fit for the time that it takes to attend them. However, or whatever the final decision might be, it is certain that they will make a change, or rather, try to make one. The fact of the matter is that they have had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Like one who holds up to the sun a mirror and casts a few of its diverted rays in a different direction, so have they done with the truth that's supposed to have come from the east. There are but few people who know what the truth is about man, and that few know that it would be foolish to try to impart it to the ignorant. Although the ignorant has finished college, here's a fool right on, being trained to jump through the hoop. The longer he stays in the school, the better he can jump, and the more bitter will he defend his jumping. From the east comes all light. Though the sun is hanging at high noon, the blind cannot see the light. The same as the Islamic creed brought to the Asiatics of North America by Prophet Noble Ali, who offered to those who were sick at heart, tried for many years, yet they are blind and cannot see the light. Nor the prophet trying to put new wine in old skins, for he knows that it will burst them. Yet he has the remedy for the nations. The same remedy brought by Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, which remedy is the truth. The nations do not want the truth. It is too stern. But till they accept it and find out where it truly is, there will continue to be religious controversy. Praise Allah and honor to the prophet. At this time, I like to recite the Moorish American prayer. Ain't nothing wrong, I recite the Fatiha too. I recite the Lord's Prayer. I've done it all on this show. But in this era of time, the greatest prayer that those of African descent can learn is your Moorish American prayer, because this is the source from which you draw your strength. Moorish, M, American, A, prayer, P, M-A-P. That's your map back to the great God Allah. So at this time, I will recite the Moorish American prayer, on which is the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Praise Allah. Drew Ali came for me. He had me on his mind. And I'm so glad he came for me. 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 While he prayed for me, had me on his mind. Took the time and prayed